in the heart of Mbali village, where the sun rose golden over the red earth and children's laughter echoed between the mango trees, there lived a woman named Nambi. She was known for her soft voice, beautiful smile, and the sweetest yogurt. Every morning she would walk through the dusty road, carrying large calabashes filled with her famous yogurt, singing as she made her way toward the schoolyard. The children would rush toward her, coins clinking in their tiny hands, eager to buy what they believed was a refreshing homemade treat. But behind that innocent sweetness, Nambi carried a secret so strange and dark that even the spirits of the forest whispered her name with fear. Nambi had once been a nurse at the small village clinic. After her husband's death and her dismissal from the job due to accusations of negligence, she struggled to feed her 2 sons. Desperate, she began selling yogurt made from her own breast milk, mixed with sugar and a little flavoring to disguise it. At first, she convinced herself it was harmless after all. It was natural, clean, and filled with nutrients. The children loved it, and she earned enough money to pay school fees and keep her family fed. But soon, rumors started spreading. Old Mama Cato, who sold fried cassava near the school gate, noticed that Nambi's yogurt never spoiled, even after several days in the sun. "There's something strange about that woman's drink," she whispered. "It's as if the ancestors have cursed her milk." The whispers grew louder, and the elders began to notice unusual happenings around the school children falling sick. Some complaining of strange dreams, where they saw Nambi feeding them under a giant tree surrounded by spirits. Yet every morning, Nambi continued her trade, pretending not to hear the gossip, though her eyes carried the heaviness of guilt. Inside her hut, "I do this for our boys, Juma," she'd whisper. "Forgive me. I can't let them starve." One night, while washing her calabashes by the riverside, a strange woman appeared. She wore a long red cloth and had beads around her neck that glowed faintly under the moonlight. "Nambi," the woman said, her voice deep and haunting, "the milk you sell is not yours alone anymore. The spirits have drunk from your body too. Stop before it's too late." Terrified, Nambi ran back home, trembling. But the next morning, hunger and desperation pushed her to ignore the warning. She told herself it was only a dream, just her tired mind playing tricks. She went on selling, her voice trembling as she called out, "Fresh yogurt, sweet yogurt." That day, the headmaster's daughter bought a full calabash. She drank it happily and fell into a strange sleep before reaching home. Her mother found her lying cold on the path, breathing but unresponsive. Panic spread through the village, and all eyes turned toward Nambi. She tried to explain, her words stumbling, her face pale. But deep inside, she knew the spirit's warning had come true. That night, she couldn't sleep. The moonlight crept through the cracks of her hut, and in the silence, she heard children's laughter turning into cries, echoing from the direction of the school. She rose, trembling, and stepped outside to see ghostly figures of children walking toward her gate, their eyes glowing like fireflies. She screamed and fell to her knees, begging for mercy. But the voices only grew louder, chanting her name, "Nambi, Nambi." The following morning, Mbali village woke under a cloud of fear. The news of the headmaster's daughter had spread like wildfire. Every mother kept her child indoors. Every vendor refused to sell near Nambi's stall, and even the birds seemed to avoid the path leading to her hut. Nambi sat alone on her mat, her face buried in her palms, trembling as the distant sound of church bells echoed through the valley. She had spent the night haunted by the cries of ghostly children, her dreams twisted by visions of the river turning red and her hands stained with milk that refused to wash off. When dawn came, she decided she could no longer stay silent. She gathered her calabashes and went to see the village elder, Baba Kintua, man so old that people said he had spoken to spirits since birth. His hut sat near the sacred river, surrounded by white stones and charms made of feathers and shells. As Nambi approached, Baba Kintu was already waiting outside, as if he had known she would come. His eyes were pale like the morning mist, his voice deep and calm. "Nambi, daughter of the soil," he said slowly, "you have fed not only the living, but the dead. The river spirits are angry." Nambi fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't mean to harm anyone," she cried. "I only wanted to feed my sons. I used what the gods gave me." The elder sighed. When a woman's milk is shared beyond her children, it becomes sacred, bound to the spirit world. You have broken a rule older than this land itself. He led her to the edge of the river, where the water shimmered with strange light. He scooped some into his palm and poured it onto the ground. The droplets hissed as if touching fire. "The river remembers everything," he murmured. "You must purify yourself before the 7th sunrise, or the curse will consume you and all who drink from your hand." Nambi shivered, clutching her chest. "How, Baba? Tell me what to do." He gave her a small gourd filled with bitter-smelling herbs. "Go to the forest of Nyagala," he said. "There lives the spirit mother who guards the balance between life and death. Offer her this gourd, confess your sin, and she may forgive you." Nambi thanked him, though fear still burned in her heart. As she left, the villagers watched her from afar, their faces filled with hatred and suspicion. Some children threw stones, shouting, "Witch, child killer." Her 2 sons, Musa and Tendo, ran to her side, crying, "Mama, what are they saying?" Nambi hugged them tightly, whispering, "Don't listen, my loves. We'll leave this place for a while." That night, she set out with a torch and the gourd of herbs, leaving her boys in the care of an old neighbor. The forest loomed dark and endless ahead of her. The trees whispered, and strange shadows danced among the roots. She followed the river's edge until she reached a clearing where the moonlight fell like silver rain. There, she saw a woman sitting upon a stone, her hair long and white as cotton, her eyes glowing softly. Nambi fell to her knees and held up the gourd. "Spirit mother of Nyagala," she pleaded, "I have sinned. I fed my milk to those not of my womb. Please forgive me." The spirit looked at her for a long time, then spoke in a voice that echoed like thunder beneath the earth. "You have mixed life and death, Nambi, but mercy is still possible. If your heart is true, offer the river your tears, and it shall test your soul." Nambi began to weep, her tears falling into the water. The river shimmered, turning white, and then she heard a scream not hers, but the voices of many children crying out from beneath the surface. Suddenly, the ground shook, and the spirit raised her hand. "Go back to your village," she said. "But know this: the curse is not lifted until truth meets punishment." Before Nambi could ask what that meant, the spirit vanished into mist, leaving her trembling by the water's edge. She felt lighter, but something told her the worst was yet to come. When Nambi returned to Mabali village, the air felt heavier, as though the ancestors themselves were watching her every move. The villagers whispered and stepped aside as she passed, clutching their amulets and muttering prayers under their breath. Her 2 sons ran to her, relieved to see her alive, but even they noticed that her eyes had changed darker, hollow, as if they held the reflection of the forest spirits. She said little that day, cooking quietly while her sons played outside, pretending nothing was wrong. But that night, as the crickets began their chorus, the strange happenings started again. The children of the village began to cry in their sleep. Parents ran out of their huts, shouting for help. Every child spoke of the same dreamer, woman with glowing eyes, standing by the river, calling them to drink from her calabash. When the parents asked who she was, they all said one name, Nambi. Panic spread like wildfire. Men gathered with sticks and torches, demanding that Nambi explain herself. She tried to tell them about the river spirits and the cleansing ritual, but no one listened. Lies, one man shouted. You have cursed our children. You must leave this place before the sun rises. Terrified, Nambi clutched her sons and ran toward the forest. But even as she ran, she heard the wailing of the children behind her, echoing through the night. When she reached the riverbank, she stopped to rest. The moon glowed red, and the water rippled strangely, as if breathing. She knelt and whispered, "Spirit Mother, I did what you asked. Why are the children still suffering?" A voice rose from the water, soft, but filled with sorrow. "Because your repentance is incomplete. You cannot wash away a sin by hiding from it. The truth must be spoken to those you have wronged." Nambi wept. "They won't listen to me. They hate me now," the voice replied. "Then you must make them see." The river began to swirl, forming images upon its surface, the faces of the sleeping children, pale and sweating, their dreams invaded by unseen shadows. Nambi watched in horror as she realized her connection to them had not been broken. Her milk had bound her soul to theirs. "If I die," she whispered, "will the curse end?" The river's ripples stilled for a moment, and then came the answer, "Yes, but only if your death is given freely, not taken." Nambi trembled, clutching her chest. She thought of her sons, of their laughter, their small hands, and how they depended on her. She couldn't leave them motherless, yet she couldn't let the children of the village continue to suffer. As dawn approached, she returned quietly to her hut. Her sons ran to her, crying, but she smiled weakly and held them close. "My loves," she whispered, "if I go away, you must be strong. Remember that your mother loves you more than the sun loves the sky." They didn't understand her words, but something in her tone made them cry harder. Outside, the men of the village were gathering again, torches in hand. Baba Kintu, the old elder, stood among them, sadness in his eyes. "Let her speak," he said softly, when the mob demanded punishment. Nambi stepped forward and told them everything, how she had lost her husband, how hunger drove her to sell yogurt made from her own milk, and how the spirits had warned her too late. The villagers listened in stunned silence. Some wept, others turned away in shame. But the curse was still upon them, and they knew someone had to pay the price. Baba Kinta raised his staff and said, "The spirits seek balance. A life must be offered to restore it." Nambi nodded slowly. "Then let it be mine." She walked toward the river, the villagers following in silence. As she stepped into the water, the surface began to glow, and a gentle wind swept through the trees. "Forgive me," she whispered, "for I meant no harm." The river shimmered, swallowing her whole, and for a moment the cries of the children ceased. Then, in the silence that followed, a single calabash floated to the surface empty, clean, and shining like glass under the rising sun. The sun had barely risen when the people of Mbali village gathered along the riverbank, staring at the spot where Nambi had vanished. The air was still, heavy with both relief and regret. The water shimmered softly, as though the river itself mourned the woman who had given her life to cleanse her sin. Baba Kintu stood by the edge, his old hands gripping his staff tightly. "The balance has been restored," he murmured, though his eyes betrayed sorrow. The villagers nodded, whispering prayers for the children, who, at that very moment, began to wake from their strange slumber. Mothers rushed to their huts to find their sons and daughters sitting up, their eyes clear and bright once more. The curse was lifted. For the first time in many nights, laughter returned to Mbali boat. It was laced with guilt. The same people who had cursed Nambi's name now spoke it in reverence, realizing she had sacrificed herself for their peace. Yet the story did not end there. That night, as the moon rose full and silver, the river began to whisper. It was said that if you stood near its banks after dark, you could hear Nambi's voice carried by the windsoft. Some said she spoke to her sons. Others believed she warned mothers never to let desperation drive them into darkness. Days turned into weeks, and Nambi's sons, Musa and Tendo, grew quieter. They refused to leave the hut, often staring toward the river for hours. One night, Musa, the elder boy, told Baba Kintu that he could hear his mother calling him. The old man took it as a sign of grief, but when he went to the river himself, he too heard the faint melody of a woman's song, gentle and haunting. "She is not at rest," he whispered. "Something still binds her spirit." The following morning, he gathered the villagers once more. "We owe her peace," he declared. "We must honor her memory properly, not as a sinner, but as a mother who gave her life for her people." Together, they built a small shrine by the river-round hut made of clay and reeds, with a wooden carving of a woman holding a calabash. They placed flowers and milk by its base, offering prayers every new moon. But even as they tried to honor her, strange things began to happen again. Whenever someone lied or cheated in the market, their milk would sour overnight. Whenever a mother neglected her child, her dreams would fill with visions of Nambi standing by the river, silently watching. Fear returned, not the fear of curse, but of conscience. The river had become sacred, a place no one dared to pollute or disrespect. It was believed Nambi's spirit had become the guardian of truth, punishing those who deceived or took advantage of others. One evening, as thunder rolled in the distance, Baba Kintu stood by the shrine with Musa and Tendo beside him. The boys asked, "Grandfather, is Mama angry with us?" The old man smiled sadly. "No, my children. Your mother is watching over you, but she carries a heavy burden, the love that cannot rest." The wind rose, bending the tall reeds, and from within the murmur of the river came a faint sound, like a lullaby. The boys closed their eyes and smiled through their tears, for they recognized the song. It was the same one their mother used to sing while making her yogurt. That night, Baba Kintu dreamt of Nambi standing by the river, radiant and calm. "Thank you," she said, "but tell them the story of my mistake, so no mother may fall as I did." When he woke, the dawn was breaking, and the river was silent once again. The elder gathered the people and spoke her story from beginning to end, without hiding a single truth. The villagers wept, but they listened, and from that day forward, they taught their children a new proverb: the milk of life must never be traded for silver, for the spirits do not forget. Years passed in Mbali, and Nambi's story turned from whispered shame into sacred legend. The village, once marked by fear and division, had grown into a place of unity. The people believed the spirit of the river protected them, now blessing their crops, calming their storms, and keeping the children safe. Her shrine stood firm by the riverbank, where mothers would bring offerings of milk and white flowers every full moon, whispering prayers of gratitude. Musa and Tendo, her sons, grew into fine young men. Musa became a healer, learning the ways of herbs and the secrets of the spirits, while Tendo grew into a gifted storyteller, traveling from one village to another to share their mother's tale. But no matter how far he went, he always returned to the river, his voice trembling when he told the part about her sacrifice. He would end every story with the same words: "A mother's love can feed nations, but when twisted by pain, it feeds spirits too." One night, during the season of heavy rains, the river swelled beyond its banks. Thunder roared across the sky as if the heavens were angry once more. The villagers rushed to move their belongings, fearing another curse. Baba Kintu, now old and weak, was carried to the shrine by Musa as lightning cracked across the horizon. They heard something extraordinary, a woman's voice singing above the storm. It was soft, almost mournful, yet beautiful beyond words. "It's her," whispered Tendo, eyes wide. "Mama is calling." The villagers gathered, their torches flickering in the wind, staring at the river that now glowed faintly beneath the rain. In the shimmering water, a figure appeared, Nambi, radiant and peaceful, holding a calabash that overflowed with pure white light. The storm calmed as her voice echoed through the valley. "Let no mother suffer alone. Let no hunger steal compassion. Let love be pure as the river." Her image slowly faded, but the river remained calm, as if soothed by her words. Baba Kintu fell to his knees, tears streaming down his wrinkled cheeks. "She has been freed," he said softly. "The spirits have accepted her." When dawn came, the storm was gone, and the villagers found the shrine untouched, though the river had risen around it. In front of the shrine lay a single calabash, real and solid, filled with fresh, sweet milk. No one knew how it got there, but they took it as a sign of blessing. From that day onward, the people of Mbali began celebrating the festival of the River Mother. Every year, they would gather to tell Nambi's story, dance by the river, and share yogurt made purely from cow's milk in honor of her memory. The elders made sure every child learned the meaning behind it, that greed and desperation could invite the anger of spirits, but sacrifice born from love could heal even the deepest wounds. Musa eventually took his mother's place as guardian of the river shrine, and Tendo's tales spread across neighboring lands. Travelers came from far and wide to hear of the woman who sold her milk to children, a story not of shame but redemption. Some said they could still hear her voice in the river's flow at dusk, humming a lullaby that could calm even the most restless heart. The villagers began calling the river Nambi's tears, for its waters were said to be the purest in the land. Generations later, her tale was still told under the glow of the village fires, passed down like a sacred seed of wisdom. It reminded every listener that even in darkness, love could bloom, and that forgiveness, like the river, never stops flowing. And so, when the rains came again, and thunder rumbled in the distance, the people of Mbali no longer trembled in fear. Instead, they lifted their eyes to the sky and whispered her name with reverence. For they knew that somewhere beyond the veil of the living, the river still sang the name Nambi, the mother who turned her sin into salvation.